all yours. The floor is yours. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, let's start. Primero, firstly, oh, my presentation is not working, so it's going to be shorter, and you might be happy with that. But also another topic that I wanted to share with you because it's important. The title is the technological trilogy, and I'm not sure if that was going to be interesting for you, but what I did was to ask someone that's involved. So I asked Chat GPT and I asked about the trilogy. It has 2,000, more than 2,000 years. The Catholic one, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But there's another one, the robotic, the one that talks about quantum computing and AI. I thought that was a trilogy, and I asked for the opinion. And the first response, after a few milliseconds, it was a second for GPT is a lot. And I got a list of all of the cultures and religions, and then I got some comments, and finally, I think we can see it on the screen. Let's hope that could be the first slide, but it's not working. Let's go back. Let's go back. That's what the GPT said. These three technological areas could be considered a modern trilogy due to the interconnection among them. And I felt something that you probably must have felt as well. The satisfaction one gets when we know we're right. And that's how I felt. And before, I also wanted to introduce someone because we are here today, the four creators of internet. So ARPANET was Larry Roberts, and for the first time he tried TCP/IP protocols. Vinton and Robert created TCP/IP, and Tim created www. So because of their work, that's why we are here today. So let's start with the presentation. Robotic, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. Robotic is probably the one what we all know, and it started in 1948 or around that time. And it started with industrial robots for different reasons, but probably the main one was because in the industry they really didn't mind if the robot was big, ugly, cute, as long as it could conduct repetitive actions for which it was built. It was fine. That's why the industry grew and carry on growing, and we even today have almost robots who are actually quite cute. So here we can see one that looks okay. So we are talking about robots that have more to do with humans. That might be slightly more complicated. That's because although AI can facilitate everything that's to do with movements, so for example an autonomous car, um, due to artificial intelligence, can do like 150 kilometers an hour without having an accident. Well, the same should be for a robot. They should be able to carry out tasks with no problem. But the physical area has problems. Today, we don't have as much development in terms of the movements of the robots. So you must have seen some that go up the stairs. They can run, they can carry furniture and heavy luggage. But that's not the image that we have of our robots. It's not the image of someone sitting at home doing things. But marketing mentions that although there isn't a problem to create um, something that artificial, but the market would not accept a robot with human appearance. So, for example, no one would take home robot, a human-looking robot, to look after the kids. So there are some difficulties related to how the robot looks. And this, it hasn't got to do with AI because that's been solved. So for that robot, we're going to have to wait a bit longer. They're more modern, these robots, and people are less reluctant to have them around. So this is a robot in a Chinese company. He was named the CEO of the company. I don't know if it's fake, but it was published. So now we can see that there were 50 robots in the summit of the United Nations. Um, we could maybe create robots that could do something like surgery in a human with more precision than a surgeon because they don't get tired as a surgeon would after working for 12 hours, and also they don't complain. So they we could use them in medicine, for example, in primary care, um, to carry out consultations to patients. So we do use them in Korea a lot. We have hundreds. There are hundreds of examples to prove that they're useful and they work, but there's still a long way to go. So this is Doreen Brogan Martin, the Secretary of the International Telecommunication Union, in an event where robots with human looking and shapes were introduced.
Bueno,
Okay, now we will talk about quantum computing. Okay, this is technology. In 1990 is the beginning of the quantum computing, 1980. We know how works conventional compute. There are two positions. Quantum computing has a third feature. And to me, this is a simplest explanation. Conventional compute, PC says yes and no, and the quantum computing is, and this is the way that a human thinks. This works or not, and in the case of the quantum computing, it's human-like. It has a human-like thinking. When I read more about this thing, it's it results interesting. And on the other hand, quantum computers has different difficulties. The dimension and they have to be in low temperature working environments. And there are some complex issues about this theme, but when you see the results, there are, there are some features that present also errors, but there are improvements, and we are working on these themes, and the businesses are involved fully on creating chips, and instead of cubics, you're you will work with quantum computing, lowering the cost. This is the IBM quantum computing computer. There is a struggle about the qubits, 2, 4, 6, Chinese or or uh, are saying that they are the one who have the most uh, right number. This is Sycamore the, from Google, and this is Azure from Microsoft. Very interesting. And this is from a private business that you you must pay in order to get into it. And on the other hand, we have governments, armed forces, and universities, but they are less known to the public. Eh, every intelligence service must have their quantum computer, an important part of their work. This is the Chinese, 10 million. Um, it it is faster than the one from Google. And the last, the artificial intelligence, our protagonist. Um, Everybody knows who he is, Terminator. The singularity is the phenomenon by which a machine creates another machine which is smarter and smarter than human beings. This is something alleged by some theorists, and what brought science fiction was brought this closeness to us until the appearance of GTP, and this can be I can create intelligent machines. Yes, possibly. But also we have to think about what happens in this movie can become reality, but we will avoid those results come true. Don't, don't you think so? The only example that we have on the counterpart is atomic energy. Some it has we have been living with atomic energy for so many years, and we had this sufficient wisdom not to press the button. And we hope that we have the same criteria on this case. More than 80% of science fiction was reality. What was written by Julia Verne in, and so on, every prediction by those writers became reality in some point in the history. So let us think. This is what we have nowadays. Security is a big issue and a serious issue because the capacity of the quantum computers with intelligent artificial intelligence uh, or can those codes, more sophisticated codes, can be deciphered in 5 seconds. That's a possibility. The IBM computer, it's accessible for the public, and IBM has free courses to learn to program in algorithms. If any of you are is interested, you can enter in the site. It has more than 2,000 nucleus and more than 80 teraflops and 80 millions of operations by seconds. That's what's about. And it utilizes more than 100 algorithms by second. In So you can see this is the reality. Before the questions, there is no doubt that these technologies will have a result. In my point of view, is the end of some jobs, which is guaranteed. And I know that most of you said some morning why I have to wake up to go to work. This can be the solution, but it's not easy, an easy one. And the problem is not going to work, which is marvelous. Nor politicians nor governments have read about this theme. There is no project about how we can face this situation in the future. You know that the people are left jobless by every day. Many people lost their job. In I know that the country with policies about this problem is one of the coldest. Gre- Greenland, no. The country has the best quality of life, high um, taxes. Iceland, Finland. They are the people thinking about the future and and have already a service of unemployment. And no matter how is their age, they can go and get a subsidy. And they have already solved this problem. I will tell you something about this country. There were 1,200 people subscribed. And I think the reality in Argentina would be 40 million people. And it would be useful for every one of us. But let's go on. And we are facing another problem. Uh, we have enough cash, but the problem is its management. Business with 100 employees can end with only 100. And what is going to happen with the rest? It is a policy that must be solved by the state or the government. Could we work without? Could we live without working? Plans of leisure. I will work for 1 hour, and the rest of the day I will go for a walk or paint something. We have two difficulties: cash and ourselves. What are we going to do in the future? I remember what happened in France. It was an experiment. They reduced the working hours from 44 hours to 40. But they had to reset the situation to 44 because of the leisure problem. So this can be a possible future. Let's move on to questions.
come from the technology field, and I see that the future system engineers and software engineers, I feel that AI for them is almost like a new god that exists that knows everything and can do everything for them. However, they have started to have that bias and not to question anything. And I had a conversation with one of them, and he said, "No, I said to ChatGPT, and it does it for me." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. But how do you know it's actually is doing the correct thing and there's no security gap or threat?" And then he responded, because why would he lie? But I think that's going to be a challenge from now onwards, because I think I am from that generation that's going to suffer the impact of the unemployment and job losses. What's going to happen in future? Hello? So what's that is a lack of knowledge. We are managing a technology that most of us don't know very well. Now, you could think that it doesn't lie to you, but what you should think is that it could be making a mistake. That would be the logical reasoning. And that's the problem that we have, that people sometimes create gods where they do not exist. Any other question? Yes, Stella Diaz from Colombia. I'm academic and training coordinator of a school. Some jobs will disappear, but it will disappear the way we know it. The quantum jump, I started that concept in my presentation, and I think is quickly approaching us, and we need to stop competing with machines, because we know and you know that in 1 second everything changes. So we should turn towards human beings. And when you say that jobs will disappear, I agree, but maybe some which are repetitive and they not require human contact, and some human science that will prevail, because humans will wonder, how can I be alone without feeling stressed, bored, feeling relaxed, happy with myself? So we're going to have anthropology, social science, all of those will be coming. And the recommendation that we are doing now when we talk about AI is to search all degrees that have some form of contact with humans, not those ones which are repetitive and they are carried out in a closed environment, and that we shouldn't see it as competition. Although it is true that we have advanced somehow in AI and it's enough to change us in the next 15 years, making learning and with learning is quite basic, but it is there are things happening at a low level. So how could we do or carry out that transformation from schools, universities, and other institutions to do a root, to carry out a root change? Because if we don't do it from the root, we're going to be convinced that we're not going to be prepared for the future. And in 10, 15 years, it's going to come as a shock for us, because there will be professions that will disappear. What happened with internet today? We have many things that were brought from internet, Uber, other apps and communication systems. Thank you. It is correct. I agree with what you're saying. I also resume, and I do resume what I say. I don't think jobs will disappear, but some form of jobs will disappear. If I work with my hands, I will probably carry on doing my job. Like, for example, if I'm a painter, I will carry on painter, because although AI might be able to do paint, he'll be a human who has who paints and makes pieces of art. But as you well said, there will be tasks that might make no sense anymore. That happened a long time ago in the US. They have a different law system than in our countries, where previous backgrounds of a trial will help the resolution of the trial. And there were hundreds of students who would spend time reading files to achieve norms, um, to take them to their trial. Well, that can be done by a machine, and they can just resume what they need. So, well, like those, hundreds of them will disappear. I'm from Brazil. Thanks for your presentation. I think you had the privilege of living during the 50s and the 60s. And we had mathematics, theories of technology, and what I like to know is how we change, and not in the technical capacity, and how we change then and now in your vision. So let me see if I understood. How do you see the evolution of the discourse of AI that I read in 2001, Space Odyssey, and there the computer with also the film The Stanley Curie, the computer, um, well, travels beyond. It's like a transstellar journey, and the computer takes a position in that situation, and the astronauts they cover their lips so the computer cannot read their lips. It's a great film. I really recommend it. I read it when I was a child, and there the AI manages the spaceship. So I think the question is, in your view, was the evolution of this concept through the years?
It is complex because we have to talk in a different field, about a different field. Part of the spatial operation is to solve that problem in case we are bored and we go to do some other thing. It is not a clear solution because there was a technological blackout, which is another discussion because they will consider me a crazy man. For 10 years, we have done nothing, and suddenly there are millions of satellites all around the world, outside the world, out there, and telescopic images are incredibly surprising, and this is part of the future. But why haven't we done anything in 10 years? We have to ask NASA guys, Russians, because it is not particular of one country. The whole world stopped. In my Luckily, I have experienced a different kind of music in my young years. A remote participant is asking which are the first steps in order to approach quantum applications. Considering we are starting with the guide, initial steps in order to approach as a technician or as a person, as a technical person to learn Python and programming algorithms and to build their own artificial intelligence. Another question from a remote participant. What is a major challenge in order to define the critical route in order to define standards ethical standards, moral standards. There is only one moral or many? We have only one ethic. So this is ourselves who are going to define that. Moral is only one. Quantum computing will define their own moral. Your name is Wilson. Wilson. Wilson says, what is quantum computing? Present computing have some logics that can be turned on or turned off, and this serves to make equations and also simulate alphabets and codes. They have two states, on, off, but these quantum computers are even more evolved with a different technology and are much faster. Basically, this is the concept you need to understand the situation. Who raised his hand? Hello? I speak Portuñol. Thank you for being. Before I was, I have come here. I haven't thought of this. A teacher made a presentation here and says that the role of the researchers are to pay attention to that that nobody observes. So my question is, how can we become a good researcher in an environment of swift changes, and how to keep updated and at the same time maintain experiences learned in the past, which can be useful for society. This seems to be a philosophical course. Curiosity, first of all, to put everything under question, under consideration. We cannot believe what we see, and when what we think does not match what we are seeing, we must keep an open mind. We shouldn't deny anything. Questioning is very important, because if we think of history, people who questioned were killed sometimes, like Copernicus, because they were considered witches. We are now experiencing other times that allow us to question these things. We should think anthropologically. When machines appeared, people were said to be bored, because people at that time worked all the time from the morning till night. So when the machines arrived and people had free time, sports were invented. So we should think this situation, present situation, anthropologically. Well, the same is happening here. We have become used to doing nothing. Some research says that if we work less, people tend to seek for more work. Productivity is the center of life. So I would like to ask you, talking about your trilogy, how can we move to a less alienated or more alienated role talking about work. And do you do you believe we should have a more contemplative, contemplating life? Should we concerned about this load of work and the role of technology that advances every day? What is our role here? But you are mixing philosophy with working strategy and with what we are. Because I'm sure that all of us have time to read, to study, or what they are interested in, because we have ideas, and because we want to learn more, not because we are paid, just because we like it. But around the world, we have a lot of communities, like poor. The quantity of programs may be multiplied by 8. Some populations have no problems when they are, if they are doing nothing. If you have food and health and security, you can do anything you want. But you need your own ideas for that, and not all the societies have that. So there are multiple causes for this problem. It will be very interesting. I really trust human mind. We can provide solutions for everything. Well, we have the coffee break now. You can take all the time you want if you want to go for a walk. One more thing, may I? I would like to say something because it must be said. This is possible thanks to two people who work more than anyone, who had an incredible strength, who are Olga and Adrian, all the year round. I have always wanted to be a rock star. This is fiction. I don't know how I ended up as an engineer. I wanted to be a singer. That's why I am optimistic, because when we don't know what to do, we can invent a new path. In the same way, Oscar was talking about all our effort over the years. I would like to say that without the initial support that Oscar provided us, because at the very beginning, governments, private sector, nobody understood the sense of this, and Oscar trusted this initiative, and thanks to him, we are here looking into the future. Thanks, Oscar, and thanks everybody for your participation. And now and now that we have free time, what can we do? What am I going to do with all this free time? Something's missing, but something, and Thank you. Thank all of you. This is all for you.